Good evening. It's a regular board meeting for the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education. Tonight is Wednesday, January 16th, 2019. Call this meeting to order at 7:01. Please note that this meeting's being streamed and recorded, so if you would please silence your cell phones. There are speaker cards in the back for anyone that would like to speak during public comment. We ask that you please fill that out and bring it up to the front. This time I call up Mountain House High School HOSA students. The students will be making a presentation following the Pledge of Allegiance.
So our students will lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll have them introduce themselves as they make their presentation.
Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome.
So, as you know, recently HOSA students at our school, we got to essentially answer a research question that we had. It could range from anywhere and anything, and we are going to present to you our question in our project. So here's a little poster, and we're going to hold it up for you. So the question that we decided to answer was whether participation in memorization-heavy activities, such as speech and debate and drama, affects one's memory skills. Now, as you know, our brains automatically rewire when we do an activity or a habit consistently over time. So we decided if this applies with memorization and our memory skills. In order to test this, we conducted our own experiment.
And to test this, we created two hypotheses. We created a null hypothesis, in which there were no relationships between the variables, memorization score, and the activities students participated in. So our null hypothesis was that there would be no difference between memory test scores in students that participate in memorization-heavy activities such as speech and debate and drama, and those who don't. However, our alternative hypothesis is that students who do participate in these heavy memorization activities such as drama and speech and debate will have a better score on these memory tests compared to the other students. And to test this, we had two tests that 40 students were taking, and we broke these 40 students into two groups. 20 students of people who participated in speech and debate and drama for over a year, and 20 students who had not participated. And we had them take two tests in the Learning Commons or the library, which was a very quiet environment. And the two tests were a number memory test, in which the user was given one number, and they would have to give back the number into the survey. And it would keep the number length would keep increasing until the user got it wrong 3 times. And this is how we measured the score. So the score would be how many numbers the user could get before they failed. And the second test was the verbal test, in which the user was given a word, and they would have to see whether or not they had seen that word before, or it was a completely new word. So this process would keep being repeated, and they would be given multiple words, and they would have to say whether they had seen it or it was a new word.
Now, if you look right here, that is a table of the raw scores for each of the 40 participants. And below that, which is right here, is essentially screenshots of the images that the participants saw when they were taking both the verbal test and the number memory test. And now Nikita will explain a general summary of how our results were.
So the first way we represented our data was by having a bar graph. And if you look at the key here, the color that's in blue represents the students who participated in heavy memorization activities, such as speech and debate. And the color here in red represents the students who did not participate in these activities. So for the verbal memory test, you can see clearly on the bar graph that students that did participate in speech and debate and drama had a much higher result compared to those who did not participate. But whereas for the numerical memory test, it's clearly visible that the results are somewhat similar, but the students that did participate in speech and debate did have a slighter advantage
perform generally well, especially in verbal and slightly in numerical, we decided to actually test this using t-test analysis. Because although this may seem convincing, when you actually crunch the numbers, they can reveal something very different. And for us, I'm not going to go into the technical jargon, but essentially we calculated the t-test value for both the numerical and the verbal memory test. And then after that, we compared it to the t-table values to see whether our hypothesis checked out. Now, if our t-test value for each of the tests is less than the t-table value, that means our results were not statistically significant and we failed to reject our null hypothesis. As you can see right here, both for the numerical memory test and the verbal memory test, our results, our t-table values, were less than the t-table values, which means that we failed to reject the null hypothesis and our results were not statistically significant.
Like my partner previously said, our results were not significantly significant, and we also noticed that there were some inconsistencies in our experiment, like there is with every experiment. So, as my partner Taylor mentioned before, that students were supposed to be performing this experiment in the learning commons where it's quiet, but we do not know if they were using their phone simultaneously or engaging in any other activities such as talking with a friend or peer, which are all types of distractions. But overall, we can conclude that students that participate in heavy memorization activities such as speech and debate or drama don't really have an advantage in memory skills compared to students who don't participate in such activities.
Now, one way we could extend our experiment is really testing on long-term memory. Now, this situation tested more so short-term memory, which may explain the difference since usually students who participate in drama and speech and debate need to memorize scripts for a long duration of time. So we could definitely redo this experiment looking at long-term memory, maybe revisiting students, having them memorize a paragraph and revisiting students in a week, a month, maybe even a year. And thank you so much for listening to our presentation.
Questions or comments from the board?
I couldn't do that in high school.
No question, just, excuse me, go ahead.
Oh, no, it was just very professional. Your presentation was very professional, and your poster, I mean, when I was in high school, I think we used markers.
Yeah.
Very, very professional, impressive.
I just wanted to comment that I always find the HOSA group to be very interesting and very well done presentation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great,
Very well
great
done.
job.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Matthew Balzerini.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Sharon Lampel.
Here.
Ann Goodrich.
Here.
David Pombo.
Here,
Rexar Mohammed.
Here.
Approval and/or corrections to the agenda?
Or none?
A move for approval of the agenda as presented.
Second?
First and a second, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recognition. Community Service Achievement for Quest to School fifth grade students.
I have Associate Superintendent Harrison start the introductions.
We wouldn't start if she wasn't here.
I'm happy to present the principal of Cuesta Elementary School, Heather Sharp, who made it here through the sleet and snow and through a wreck. She's here to present some students that have shown great character and leadership when it comes to the DARE activities. Heather, welcome. Good job.
Good evening, President Balzerini, member trustees of the board, Dr. Nicholas. Got here safely. I'm very happy. So it's my honor to be able to recognize some great kids tonight where our DARE program at Cuesta, students are able to do community service hours and they get points for these hours. And the projects that they do range anywhere from donating clothes, donating food, time via tutoring younger children, volunteering at nonprofit organizations, just to name a few. One of the classes made slime, sold slime, so they did all kinds of things to get their points. So there's two types of recognition. There's students who had 500 points, And a couple of students tonight I want to recognize for 1,000 points. So they were also recognized at our DARE ceremony as well. So boys and girls, as I call your name, if you could please come, can they come up here just to stand right along here? So the following students are recognized for earning at least 500 community service points. Jasmine Boutley, Janelle Jork, Mira Patel, Avni Shindi, Sanyukta Navanathin, Yasmin Kadir, Chloe Chen, Ricky Alluri, Lahari Lanka, Sophia Ramesh, Madhya Sayida, and Saharsh Gudithi. And the following two students are being recognized for earning at least 1,000 community service points. Tvishi Kumar and Gabriela Dalmida. I am very proud to recognize these students this evening.
If you guys will sit tight, we're going to come out and take a picture. Okay, our next item is AMC 8 students.
Good evening, trustees, President Balzerini, Superintendent Nicholas. It is my pleasure to be able to award some very special students who took part in the AMC American Mathematics Council competition. This is the competition that is for the younger students. We have the one for the 10-12 students coming up in a couple weeks, I think, right now. We had a large number of students who took the test and did an amazing job, and we're going to recognize the top 3 performers in our district who have earned medals. So, in third place with a bronze medal in the 6-8 competition is Pranav Ganti. Come on up. Certificate. You can shake everyone's hands. Earning the silver medal, Raiden Kuyambao. Congratulations. And earning the gold medal for ranking in the top 5% in the nation, and also earning a designation and recognition for being one of the highest students to score in only 6th grade on this test, is Amag Janagnur. Gold medal. All right, so we'll have you guys come back over here in the middle.
We're going to take a picture.
Mr. President, I can't help but think they don't get to take their picture with us. We get to take our picture with them.
Sure, yes. Our next recognition is the CSBA 2018 Golden Quill Award for Denise Rizzo. I have a little something I want to read. That's why I came back up here, so I can read this. This is text that CSBA had us sent to us. Mountain House, California, January 16th, 2019. Denise Rizzo and the Tracy Press has been chosen as one of 25 recipients of the Golden Quill Award, presented in recognition of fair, insightful, and accurate reporting on public school news by print, broadcast, and online media representatives. The inaugural Golden Quill Award are presented by the California School Board Association to recognize outstanding education journalism and highlight the essential role journalists play in increasing understanding of the objectives, operations, accomplishments, challenges, and opportunities related to public schools. Denise Rizzo will be presented with a Certificate of Excellence in Reporting by the Lammersville Unified School District Governing Board of Education. CSBA will also issue a press release and publish winners on its website, www.csba.org, and in the spring edition of the California Schools magazine. Ms. Rizzo has covered numerous Lammersville Unified School District events during her tenure as a senior reporter at the Tracy Press. From LUSD's countless student achievements in perfect CASP scores, county spelling bee championships, and national recognition awards, to the groundbreaking and grand opening ceremonies of the many new school facilities in our community. Ms. Rizzo has established an excellent working relationship with the governing board and staff of the district. Journalists who accurately and fairly explore the issues that districts and county offices of education face perform an essential public service by providing meaningful insight into public schools, one of our country's core civic institutions, said CSBA President Mike Walsh. The Golden Quill Award celebrates strong reporting that has informed audiences and illuminate the critical issues facing local schools and California's 6.2 million public school students. I can tell you, I sit on the California School Board Association Board of Directors, and when this concept was presented to our board, I immediately thought of Denise. Denise has been with the Tracy Press for quite a while. I've been on this board for over 10 years, and I can tell you we've had many reporters come and go, but Denise by far has been the best. I was proud to bring it to this board, who unanimously approved having Denise receive this award, and I'm very, very proud of that. Denise, I understand that you've recently left the press, which I'm very disappointed for, but congratulations, good luck in your future endeavors. We have this certificate for you. We want to come down and shake your hand.
I just want to thank the board for this honor. Thank you, President Balzerini, to the Lammersville Unified School District Board, and of course, Superintendent Nicholas. It's a prestigious honor, and I feel honored to receive it. Yes, unfortunately, I did just recently retire after 35 years being a newspaper reporter. I will miss working and covering your prestigious and wonderful district, but I'm sure I'll visit from time to time, and I am honored to receive this. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
So for all the recognitions tonight, thank you, congratulations, and if you would like to head home, you're more than welcome. You guys can stay if you want, but now would be a great time if you want to take off. Thank you. What's that?
Wow. Good for her.
Committee reports, District Advisory Committee.
Nothing to report, Mr. President. We have not had a meeting since the last board meeting.
Thank you. District English Language Advisory Committee.
We have not had a meeting since the last board meeting. Our next meeting is January 24th at 6:30 PM at Lammersville Elementary.
Thank you. Education Extracurricular Committee.
We've not had our meeting since the last board meeting, and our next meeting will not be until March.
Very good, thank you. Facilities Committee.
The Facilities Committee continues to revise and discuss rules for theater use. We also discussed possible changes to the handbook regarding preference for established programs using our facilities, and also discussed limiting outside use at Mountain House High School during home football games and other large events. Associate Superintendent Harrison gave an update on district radios, and Director of Maintenance and Operations and Transportation, LeGrand, gave an update on the baseball field repairs at Mountain House High School. The committee agreed to purchase side curtains for the stage at Cuesta Elementary at a cost of $8,150 to be from facility use fees. Our next facility committee meeting is scheduled for February 7th at 6:30 here in the boardroom. You have anything to add?
Only one issue. We did, the facilities committee also discussed the results of the energy audit and some next steps, not recommended procedures, but next steps for the district to look into.
So I watched the recorded version, and I just want to thank you guys again for doing that. I just watching that kind of made me reflect back to when I was on the committee, and it's a lot of time and a lot of work, and you bring a lot of patience to it. So thank you. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that this is not a function that educational institutions usually have to do. This is something that we do out of the goodness of our heart. This is something that this is a city service that is usually provided. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Policy Committee. Currently we have a group of policies we're reviewing that they'll be coming to the full board on the 20th of February. Safety Committee, we met today. We did our, what do we call it, a gallery walk? Gallery walk, reviewing all of the school safety site plans, which will be put together and submitted to the board for approval in the near future. Wellness Committee?
We haven't had a meeting since our last board meeting. Our next wellness meeting is scheduled for February 13th at 3:30 here in the boardroom.
Thank you. Governing Board reports. Trustee Mohammed?
So not much has been going on, but leadership just yesterday had the 8th grade leadership development day where 8th graders from all the elementary schools came, and we had a little assembly / event for them to prepare for if they want to be in leadership in the high school. And January 31st, we're also preparing for the 8th grade preview day with Link Crew. And other than that, there isn't really much else that's been going on.
Thank you. Trustee Goodrich?
Not much to report. I did attend the winter concert at Mountain House High School on December 14th. The students did a fantastic job. We have so many talented students. What I was amazed by was how full our theater was. There were very, very few empty seats, and I was just thinking, wow, we're not even built out yet. Where are we going to put all these people? So, good news that we were almost sold out, and bad news that we're almost at capacity already. So, blessing and a curse. So, that's all I have to report.
Trustee Clemens?
Since the last board meeting, I did attend the winter concert with several of my peers on the board at Mountain House High School, the chorus band and orchestra. To steal a word, it was fantastic. Every time I listened to the orchestra or the band or the marching band or the chorus perform, I know what it was like when I was in high school, and I know that we sounded good, but we never sounded that good. And whenever I listen to other bands perform at football games in other high schools, I wish we could take our band on the road. Anyway, they did a great job. I also spent a little bit of time. I did attend Cuesta Elementary's presentation of the Grunch. The children did a fantastic job. It was a lot of fun. Spent a little bit of time at Hanson Elementary. That was my first visit to the school since it was fully completed. And I've said this on the dais before, but as an accountant, I really have trouble visualizing what something is going to look like. You know, when you see it on paper, you know, I've just learned to trust that architects and designers know what they're doing. But I was like, man, it's edgy and industrial, and I just really didn't know how it was going to look. And man, it looks fantastic. It really came out good. You know, and I wasn't saying that it wasn't going to look good. It was just hard for me to visualize how that was going to look, and it really does look great. And Mr. President, I also began my efforts to better understand the unique challenges that we face in special education and the processes that our district uses to ensure that these students receive the education that they need and deserve. I wanted to thank Dr. Saylor for spending the time with me, walking through an overview of the issues, highlighted the process behind, you know, how to do an IEP and what goes into that. Obviously, I have a lot more learning to do over the course of the coming months. And I'm very excited to learn more about this area. And Dr. Saylor and I have already agreed upon the next steps in my education process. And so I really wanted to thank him for giving me a couple of hours of his valuable time. It was really beneficial for me. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
So I have it in my report, but I'll say it now just because you just said that. I want to commend you on having a goal and working towards it, and let you know if you find things along the way that would be beneficial for the board, please let us know so we can, we can schedule it. Whatever you learn, it's nice to have personal goals for the year. I have some of my own that I'll talk about, so thank you. Trustee Pompa.
My wife and I attended the winter extravaganza at Hanson Elementary and quite impressed. It was very impressive presentations on various countries represented in the student population at Hanson Elementary. We also attended the winter music concert at Mountain House High School and enjoyed the concert that showcased all the talented musicians at Mountain House High School. And to kind of piggyback on something that Trustee Clements said, this isn't your granddad's orchestra. We also attended the music concert at Lammersville Elementary, and it was very enjoyable. Had a good time watching the K-8 kids show off their talents. We also attended the Glass Slipper play at Lammersville Elementary and was very impressed with the sets, costumes, and performances. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Lampel.
I also had the pleasure of attending Lammersville Elementary drama class's production of The Glass Slipper. The student performances and all the support roles were just outstanding. It was obviously how much work went into the production, and it was a lot of fun. I reported to the Mountain House Community Services District Board on the Film Festival Award received by Atharva Sampora, the Digital District Award given by the Learning Council for our Blended Learning Academy Professional Development, the Air Force Band concert, the activities our DARE Club did for the homeless, the dance class and the Synergy Dance Team production, and the upcoming Health Expo on February 2nd. I also highlighted the crab feed hosted by the high school athletic boosters. I ended the report thanking the CSD for their hard work trying to resolve the issues tied to formal map approval for Cordis Village with Shea. The lack of approval is holding up the bond sales for funding of our construction. Any further delays in this map approval will delay the opening of a much-needed school. Lastly, I had the pleasure of attending the Pathways Business Partnership meeting at the high school. The evening started with appetizers prepared by our culinary arts students. These are our future chefs, that we enjoyed while being presented with an overview of all pathways by Joni Hellstrom. This presentation also included plans for expansion of our pathway offerings. The current and potential business partners then met with teachers involved in the pathway most closely aligned with their area of expertise for planning and identification of potential internships. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. See, for my report, I just wanted to mention that I do have some goals for myself and for the board this year. I'd like to start by saying I'm very proud of the work that we do. Everyone contributes, everyone's always ready for the meeting, and everyone does everything they can outside of the meeting based on their personal schedules, so I appreciate that. So a goal for me this year is to revisit and update the process for the superintendent's evaluation. We've come a long way, but I think that if we don't keep it moving, that I don't want to get stagnant. Another goal is to continue my fight with CSBA to make a turnaround time for policies with Gamut quicker. I want the public to be able to access our current policies as early as they can. I want to try and update our board bylaws this year. I thought about maybe starting with the policy committee and then taking it to the full board, but that's something that has not been done in many, many years, and I'd like to do that. I want to make adjustments to the committee assignments, but I want to wait till July, and I want to talk to the board at a later date about maybe memorializing that as common practice. I feel like when we started, if we do that in July with the new school year, I don't want to stop the work that we've already started for the school year, so maybe we can revisit that in July. One of the things, when we come to the committee assignments, I heard from the public, I do want to see what we can do around athletics. I'm going to work with the superintendent to see if there's a way to accomplish that. I was going to mention Trustee Clemens, but I already did, so. Since our last meeting, I've been working with the superintendent on getting an overall look at operations for the district. I want to make sure that some of the positive things and things that are outside the norm that we're doing are being recognized at the state level. So I definitely want to use my position with CSBA to try and to communicate that. And if there are policies or laws that are creating a struggle for us, which I understand with some of this certification of with the credentialing, if it's creating problems, then we need to fight back. And that's something that I want to try and do. So I'll be working with the superintendent on that. Yesterday, I attended the superintendent cabinet meeting. I've always seen it on the schedule, but always wondered what went on at those things. So I went and checked it out, and it's no wonder we're doing as well as we are. What a professional group that talk about roll up your sleeves, and they went in and it was all biz. You've got a great staff, and a lot of good work came out of that meeting. Everything tied to the LCAP priorities that this board has set, goals that the superintendent has set around those LCAP priorities. So it's working. The whole thing is working, and it's very impressive to see. If you have a chance to go to one of those meetings, I highly recommend it. And yesterday I swung by the New Hire Academy for TK to second over at Hanson. I saw, again, just like you said, I walked through the site and was just amazed by it. I don't think I've been on the campus since it was fully completed, and it's a beautiful campus. But I just popped in, and on behalf of the board said Happy New Year and thanked the staff that was in there for what they do. It's nice to see teachers getting some education themselves. That was nice. And then last night I went to the Altamont PTA meeting. Again, just to thank everyone. In this community, it seems like 90% of the work is done by the same 10% of people. And I felt really bad for that board. They were begging to get more involvement in PTA. They have a bylaw that says they can only be on the board so long and they have to go off for a year before they can come back. And they're worried because there's zero participation or zero interest in getting on that board. So for those of you watching at home, we need parents to get involved and involved with our organizations, PTAs and what are the organizations? Foundations, thank you.
Mr. President, that's true for the boosters.
All of them, yes. All the organizations.
All of the student
You're right,
support
you're
organizations.
right. And it's, you know, I mentioned to the group, that's the way it's always been here. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is, so.
Not just here.
Probably, yeah. So.
Yeah.
And that concludes my report. Questions?
Yeah, I just failed to mention a couple of things that I intended to mention. One is the upcoming crab feed for Mountain House sports or athletic boosters on February 16th. And the other is the Lammersville School Foundation dinner and auction coming up on March 1st. And I would like to personally invite everyone on the board to both of those events.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Receiving public comment. Is there any public comment? No. Moving on to consent items for consideration. There are several. The governing board meeting minutes from the regular meeting on December 12th, approval of budget revisions and warrants, approval of staff recommendation for student expulsion number 181902 for the 2018-19 school year, approval of staff recommendation for student expulsion 181903 for the 2018-19 school year, approval of staff recommendation for student expulsion 181904 for the 2018-19 school year, ratification of new hires, ratification of resignations, ratification of school-sponsored overnight trips, updated 2018-19 fundraisers, acceptance of a donation, $500 from Jacqueline Prywera for the Mountain House High School engineering program, and declaration of surplus equipment. Thank you.
Move to approve consent items for consideration.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So I'd like to take a moment to welcome our new hires. Maria Higgins, Special Education Aide. Kayla Hone, Special Education Aide. Gilda Garcia, Custodian 1. Kimberly Tinsley, School Secretary 1. Welcome to our Lammersville family.
District Administrative Reports, Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, I just have two short announcements. The first announcement, Assistant Superintendent Sherburne was proud to announce for us that the district has garnered yet another acknowledgement. The Learning Council is a national education organization that celebrates excellence in education, in particular tied to curriculum associated with technology. Last year, the high school was acknowledged by the Learning Council, and this year the entire district was. So I'd like to present this to our board president as another acknowledgement of the fine work that our staff, our team, and the community does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
And then second, this ties a little bit to what Trustee Lampel referred to in her board report. We had a Plan A and a Plan B to get to the opening of Cordis Elementary and the PD Professional Development Center. And so Plan A died a unceremonious death yesterday afternoon, and so we're kicking to Plan B. The reason why I set that up is in trying to anticipate how a groundbreaking would play out with Plan A and Plan B, we worked with Roblin, who sets up the event, and picked a date that was far out on a board meeting afternoon. So we would like to bring forward as the date, obviously subject to board feedback, to do the groundbreaking on February 20th at 3:30, now that we know that Plan B is our course of action.
Calendars.
1 moment.
You said February 20th at 3:30?
Correct.
Wednesdays are always challenging for me. I have leadership meetings.
At 3:30.
We have the ribbon cuttings and the groundbreakings have always been in the afternoon. We have to work with Robin's staff. We can move the date, but that's yeah. I thought you were like going. I thought I was getting the eyebrow raised.
Oh. I was asking for confirmation. It's 3:30,
Correct.
right?
In the afternoon, yes.
I can do it.
It's good on my calendar.
Sharon's no. I'm good.
I'm a maybe. I might have to move something.
Okay. That's my report.
District enrollment report.
5,454, 54, and growing.
Williams quarterly report, July through October 2018 and October through January 2019.
Yes, so we have 0 Williams reports to report to the board.
Thank you. District maintenance and operations report. Now you're up. Yes. Now it's you.
Hi. Having a great night. My tire blew out on the way over here, so I'm a little...
Frazzled?
15 minutes. I changed it just pretty quick, so good job. Anyways, good evening. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year. Just so everybody's aware, we're running a little bit thin in M&O at the moment between maternity leave and workers' comp and openings. We're running a little thin, but we're working hard, working together, trying to get everything covered and get everything completed. I attended the facilities committee meeting just before winter break. We had a fairly productive winter break. We had quite a few people off at some of the schools, so not getting as much done as we wanted to do. We had our fire department re-inspection at Lammersville on the 9th. Irene and I spent an hour plus with the fire inspector. She was very demanding, so we covered most of what she wanted. And I attended the safety committee this afternoon. This coming Friday, we're having all the hood inspections done on all the kitchens, semi-annual. It's the first year, so these things start coming up. Next Wednesday, they're testing all the fire sprinklers, all the sites after school. And then also next week, I'm meeting with IES out at Cuesta about the energy management issue with the HVAC. And hopefully we have some custodial interviews at the end of the week. And that's it for my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Going to be able to get home?
The little thing says not more than 50 miles per hour, so I'm going to put that to the test tonight because I usually don't drive that slow. So,
Quick question. Who does the fire inspections for in Mountain House now?
the actual Mountain House Fire Department.
They do, okay.
Yeah. And up until recently, the building department did it for Lammersville, and so evidently the building department was a little more lax than the actual fire department. So when we put the initial list, it was quite longer than we expected. So, but we got everything pretty much wrapped up what she wants, so.
I was just going to ask if Tracy Fire didn't do the Lammersville one, but you answered my question. Thank
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Action items. Item A, consider approval of 2018-19 intra-district transfer report requests. Any staff report?
None.
Move to approve 2018-2019 inter and intra-district transfer requests.
Second.
Sharon got it. First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and I already forgot. the
Well,
preference.
I was about to ask point of
Yeah,
clarification.
I forgot it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item B, consider approval of audit certification form for the annual audit report ending June 30th, 2018.
So B, C, and D are all have-tos that we have to do through the Business Services Office. So Alvina follows through on those regulations and the selection process. So any specific questions to B, C, or D, you could refer to her, but these are all things we have to do.
Move to approve the audit certification form for the annual audit report ending June 30, 2018.
Second.
First and a second, student preferential vote?
Decline to vote.
Decline to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, consider approval of independent auditor selection form for 2018-19. Same report.
Move to approve independent auditor selection form for 2018-2019.
Second.
First and second, student preferential vote.
Decline to vote.
Decline to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Oh,
Trying to.
thank you for reminding. So I voted no on everything up to this point, right? No, I'm just kidding.
I had to fill you in, so.
Sorry.
We're working with some new technology here, so bear with us. Item D, consider approval of 2019-2020 budget development calendar.
Move to approve 2019-2020 budget development calendar.
Second.
First and a second, student preferential vote.
Decline to vote.
Decline to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bless you.
Thank you.
Item E, consider approval of recommendation hiring an employee on the basis of a provisional internship permit.
Lakshmi Shiv Kumar.
Single subject mathematics credential, 9th through 12th grade, Mountain House High School. Staff report?
Yes, this is a PIP. We strongly recommend this would fill an open position, and the good news for us is that this was the long-term sub who qualifies for the position.
Move for approval of recommendation hiring an employee on the basis of a provisional intern permit, Lakshmi Shiv Kumar, single subject mathematics credential, 9th through 12th grades, Mountain House High School.
Second.
She got it.
First and a second, student preferential vote.
Decline to vote.
Decline to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, consider approval of memorandum of understanding, impacts and effects of Summer Assistance Program AB 1808 and Professional Development Funds 1840 between the Lammersville Unified School District and the California School Employees Association and its Lammersville Chapter 873. Staff report?
Yeah, so this is new legislation. It opens the door for some states supporting, subsidizing of professional development. I want to thank Mr. Miller and his team, along with CSEA and their team. We've worked out this MOU, and it should open the door for some quality professional development.
Move to approve the MOU, Impacts and Effects of Summer Assistance Program, AB 1808, and Professional Development Funds 1840 between the Lammersville Unified School District and California School Employees Association and its Lammersville Chapter 873.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? Student preferential vote?
Decline to vote.
Decline to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, consider approval of second reading and adoption of updated board policies and administrative regulations. Any staff report?
This is the second reading, and we recommend the board adopt those the regulations.
Any discussion?
Other than to once again say thank you to the policy committee for all the efforts of going through that mountain of paperwork. Move to approve the second reading and adoption of the updated board policies and administrative regulations.
Second.
And living this at work, I will ditto what you said.
First and a second, student preferential vote?
Decline to vote.
Decline to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I was a silent aye, sorry.
Did you push a button now?
Yeah.
Item H, consider approval of contract with non-public agency for a temporary school psychologist from February 1st, 2019 through May 24th, 2019, not to exceed $50,000. Staff report?
Yes, the document you're being passed is an amendment. The situation, the calendar shifted, and they added an additional month, which changes the 50,000 to 56,440. We recommend approval of this, but we wanted to update the record.
I'll move for approval of a contract with a non-public agency for a temporary school psychologist from February 1st, 2019 through May 24th, 2019, not to exceed $56,440.
Second.
Any discussion? Did you have a question? No? Okay. Student preferential vote?
Aye.
Decline to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you said aye?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. That was an aye for the record.
Point of order, This contract now states January 17th, not February, as we just stated, just.
Oh, yeah, it
dramatic.
does.
So the
Oh, it just
the
started today.
February moved to January,
Yes.
which is why the cost went up.
I just wanted to
Oh,
make
but
sure
I
that
read it
that's.
February 1st, so I'll amend the motion. Contracting with a non-public agency for a temporary school psychologist from January 17th, 2019 through May 24th, 2019, not to exceed $56,440. Thank you for catching that.
No problem.
You going to second the amendment?
I'll second.
First and a second. Student preferential based on the amendment? Aye. Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I got a lot going on. I got All right, now where am I? Item I, consider approval of Measure L fund expenditures. Staff report?
Yeah, so requests came in our CTE program for our engineering program for a capstone class. This will purchase what are called do-bots, and I'd like to do my imitation of Mr. Harrison. It's a giant mechanical arm that picks things up. And so it's part of how the kids are going to do on their last class with their culminating activity. We strongly recommend that in support of our program.
I will happily move to approve Measure L funds expenditures.
I'll second, and please tell me we got that on video.
I'll only vote yes if Mr. Harrison comes back and shows us at the end of the semester the things.
Any further discussion? First and a second, student preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item J, consider approval of Governing Board Resolution 181912 to authorize the superintendent to take all actions necessary to complete the acquisition of real property and related actions. I can't even talk tonight. Staff report.
Yeah, this is an exciting resolution as resolutions go. The board approval of this will allow us to do all the paperwork we need to institute for the first time a new way of taking over property, and will allow us to have the contractor start working on January 23rd. So we strongly recommend this resolution, and we're excited that this journey is about to come to an end and a new journey about to begin.
I move to approve Governing Board Resolution 181912 to authorize the superintendent to take all actions necessary to complete the acquisition of real property and related actions.
Second.
Any further discussion? Student preferential vote?
Decline.
Decline. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Roll call?
Matthew Balzerini.
Aye.
Colin Clements.
Aye.
Ann Goodrich.
Aye.
Sharon Lampel.
Aye.
David Pomba.
Aye.
Thank you. Information discussion items. Item A, CDE data dashboard.
I'd like to call Assistant Superintendent Sherburne up to give some more good data information about our district.
Good evening again. It is my pleasure to be here to share this report because it is good news and it's another opportunity for our district to shine. So the California School Dashboard, if you'll remember, is what replaced the old API system and AYP that we had underneath the previous things. And so once we switched over to LCFF and the LCAP, the state created for accountability purposes the new California State Dashboard System. This dashboard is meant to be used by staff and the governing board to monitor the implementation of the LCAP and the effectiveness of the expenditures that have been appropriated through the LCFF process. This is what the dashboard looked like last year. If you remember, it had the Trivial Pursuit colored pies that were on there, and we were able to look at a variety of indicators that are part of the state accountability system. The state has changed their look of the system now from the Trivial Pursuit pies to this kind of speedometer looking chart that still has colors that indicate the progress that we've made for a district. Green and blue are still the green color, the good colors that we are looking to achieve, and we're really proud to be able to share that we have achieved green and blue in nearly everything. And if you looked at the individual dashboards for school sites, you would see a very similar picture across that. We continue to look at academic performance, academic engagement, and the conditions and climate as the three main areas with the indicators underneath them. And we're looking at it through the lens of change and status. So one, what level of achievement do we have in that area? And then is that change from last year positive or negative? So let's look at how we did this year. We'll start with English Language Arts. Overall, you can see that we have a green indicator at 39.7%, which is a distance of 39.7 point distance from level 3, which is the minimum threshold for scoring proficient. And that is an increase over last year of 3.2. So that's a positive status and a positive change. The homeless and students with disabilities continue to be subpopulations where we have opportunities for growth. The African American population, however, saw some slight gains, which is a positive indicator for us. And our English learner population had an 8-point gain and are currently at green, which is a really remarkable status that we should be proud of. In the area of mathematics, we also have an overall status of green, and we are 22.7 points distance from 3, that minimum threshold, with an increase of 10.3 points over last year. The Hispanic student population is an area for opportunity of growth in orange. And again, the African American population that we've spent some energy focusing on grew by 20.8 points, so a nice substantial growth there. And the students with disabilities increased by 3.3 points. The English learner, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged populations, as another positive, are all green in their status. And each of them had positive gains for change. The English learners had the largest gain out of those subpopulations with 10.8 points growth. So again, another positive. If you look at the English learner column there, you'll see that there's no speedometer, and that's because this is based on the LPAC test, and this is the first year that the LPAC has been given. So you can see an overall status level that we have 78.6% students who are moderately to well-developed, the largest percentage of those being well-developed. Additionally, we had a decrease in the, or a low level that are at that beginning stage, so we're proud of that. On the college and career readiness indicator, again, we have an overall status of green at 53.5%, indicating prepared, and that is an increase of 3.5%. Beyond that, in the unprepared or not prepared level, we had a decline of 2% as well. So not only did we increase from the middle up to prepared, we also decreased in our lowest level. Socioeconomically disadvantaged and white populations are our areas of opportunity for growth and focus. They saw a slight decline. There are no status or change indicators for our foster youth, homeless, African American, English learners, and a few other subgroups because of the small size of the population. It has to meet a minimum threshold before they'll report on that. So within the academic engagement area, we have two areas, chronic absenteeism and the graduation rate. The chronic absenteeism area is our one indicator that has a status of yellow. This is a K-8 category only. It does not include the high school. We have 8.4% students who are chronically absent right now, which is defined as absent 10% or more of the year. That is something we have been focusing on as a district. The students with disabilities, English learners, foster youth, Hispanic, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and Filipino have orange status, but they have had increases, which is not what you want to see in the absence rate. Particularly the foster youth and homeless populations. We have 3 school sites who are having attendance issues that are showing in the red area. And we have the other school sites showing in the green area, which is really averaging out to this yellow status. On the graduation rate, we're looking at the high school level population. We have a blue status overall, which is very exciting and remarkable. When we look at where our opportunity for growth is, the white population is our weakest performing subgroup right now with a 90.6% graduation rate and a decline of 5%. The socioeconomically disadvantaged, Asian, Filipino, and Hispanic all have statuses of green and blue, and no performance color is available for the other subpopulations due to that small size. Our local indicator there is MET, for a broad course of study. In the conditions and climate, we're looking at the suspension rate, which also has an overall status of green, and we had a decline of 1.3% in our suspensions. The African American, foster youth, and students with disabilities have a status of yellow for their population. However, all of them had a decline, which is a positive change, so we're glad to see that. Again, the local indicators in those areas for basic materials, parent engagement, and the local climate are all met. So in summary, this is what our dashboard looks like again, and we have a strong status with nearly all of our indicators at green and blue. The English learners and African American populations had positive change in English language arts and math, which is something we had been focusing on. The chronic absenteeism is an indicator area of need for us at 3 schools. The majority of change on the dashboard overall was positive, and all of our local indicators are met. Thank you. Any questions?
I just have a comment. It certainly shows that when this district makes something a focus area, we succeed.
Correct.
So I know these results will tell you where to focus for the rest of this year, and I know we'll continue to see improvement. This is an amazing report. It really is. The numbers are outstanding in every area. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments by the board?
I just wanted to say that I know we spent a lot of effort on the summer school program and making sure that we had summer school in place for English language learners in the past couple of years, and it's clearly paying off. So I highly recommend we continue so that those students continue to benefit.
I just want to say thank you very much. It's great information, great pictures. I like but not that the state really cares what I think, but I like the new indicators rather than the pie charts. I think
I do too.
gas gauge looking thing is a little more intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do the students still receive individual reports from the dashboard at home?
They receive their individual CASPOR reports, which is separate than the California dashboard, but yes.
It's not in the same format or anything, or is it?
No, it is not
It's
the
not.
same
Okay.
format.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the presentation.
Yes.
Item B, potential AT&T cell tower.
So this is kind of a Groundhog Day item. We have been discussing, at least in my 6 years here, the potential for sort of cell towers. We reached out in the original version of this, and nobody was interested in talking to us. This was years ago. Verizon, I think, reached out in the recent past. But now AT&T has reached out, and they have asked for us to consider the possibility of entering into an agreement. It was always our preference that when we put up the light standards at the high school stadium that we would add the stuff, the thingy-majiggies on there that would make the cell towers work, right? They have a couple of options, and they're open to other discussions, but what they brought to us is they would like to have the board consider a 50 by 50 ground space for a lease area. The term would be for 5 years with an option to extend the term for 4 additional 5-year terms, so that would be 20 years, 25 years in total. That we would get rent at $14,400 per year or $1,200 per month. And the rent shall increase by 2.5% at the beginning of each of the 5-year renewal terms. There's no pressure on us to say yes or no, but I wanted to bring this forward to the board to see if you were interested in having us pursue this idea. I would like to start the conversation with them about the football light standards. That's where I've seen them used in the past. If there's a cost-benefit analysis or if it's just not worth doing.
What were those dimensions again?
If they wanted to put up their own pole, it looks like it's 50 by 50, which is a large space.
Yeah. Okay.
I would be very cautious as to where we allow them to locate anything. I wouldn't want anything personally, I wouldn't want anything in proximity to any classrooms, student gathering areas, anything like that. If it was on the far corner of the football field, maybe, but not in the middle of the quad or adjacent to a classroom building or anything like that. There's too many unknowns with the microwave that emits and that sort of thing to take a chance on having it anywhere near students.
I agree with Trustee Pombo. While I have AT&T and I really would like to get reception downstairs, not just upstairs in my house, in a district that I previously worked in, there was a lot of concern because the cell tower was on the roof of the elementary school. So not in close proximity to classrooms, something like the football standard, I would be open to.
So what I hear the board saying is go forward and investigate and bring back a proposal or the decision that it wasn't worth it. Okay, thank you.
Item C, BPAR 1330 process and procedure. So I asked for this to be put on the agenda. In addition to superintendent receiving a request about it, there still seems to be some question about process. And just to kind of recap, and I will let the board fill in any gaps that I'm missing, the initial policy came forward. The language was not, did not reflect the current Business and Professions Code. I brought it to CSBA. They recognized that there was an error. It was reissued, and the board adopted that policy. So we have a policy. Now we need a procedure. My understanding was that that was going to be tasked to the Facilities Committee to work through a procedure which would be reflected, well, voted on, and reflected in the facilities. Am I right so far?
Kinda.
Okay.
That, my understanding, when we brought it to the board and approved it as a board, was that the Facilities Committee would vet when there were requests made, decide whether or not the committee felt like it met the parameters of what we had laid out in the policy, in the AP and the BP and AR, and then make a recommendation to the full board whether or not the committee felt like it was something that could be moved forward with or not. If the Facilities Committee needs to fine-tune a procedure more fine-tuned than that, then we can certainly take it back to the committee and
I have yet a third under.
And this is why it's here. So thank you.
Because the removing the word generally to make the CSBA recommended policy in line with the law, which it had to be, pretty much, in my opinion, for all intents and purposes, gave districts, a needle that you can't thread. Like, yeah, it's legal if, you can do this at a time when students are not on campus. But students are on campus for band practice, for this, for that, for the other thing. And the other thing is, like, okay, let's say you have an event at midnight and there aren't any practices scheduled at midnight because kids need to be in bed and kids walk across the campus. I think that the legislature gave us a distinction without a difference. And so when at the end of the day, after really evaluating it, I didn't think there was, I didn't know how to thread it myself. So I didn't know how to push forward, or to champion a change that would thread a needle that I really didn't see how to thread.
So I can tell you that I spent a lot of time in Sacramento. I have not spoken to the author of the bill, but I did speak to someone that was on the committee where this was discussed. This was not intended for K-8 schools. That was not the intention at all. Now, it's vague, it doesn't say that, but so there is a loophole. And I tell you right now that I've brought the issue to the legislator who authored this bill's office, and I'm still waiting on a response. But the language needs to get cleaned up. It's a horribly written bill, and the law is, it's terrible policy. I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead, you want to say something?
The threading of the needle, putting together what the two of you have said, put together, elementary schools are not used as much as high schools. So you're thinking when there's kids on campus all the time, that's high school. There's not kids on campus all the time at elementary schools, while I agree.
But but see, the thing is, like, even at elementary school, in the evening, they have basketball practice. Those are students. And I'm like,
Well, they're having a basketball practice. I don't think they're going to be having an adult event at the same time.
or, my thing, I think we're agreeing violently here.
You know how I feel about the whole thing. I would like to just wait until our professional development center is built, because I would have no problem approving that.
And my only thoughts on threading the unthreadable needle would be that if someone, for instance, the athletic boosters wanted to try and have their crab feed at the high school, they would have to first go to the high school and make sure that the high school could clear the campus for that evening. Then they would probably have to be, in order to thread that needle, be required to have security guards at all entrances to the campus that only let adults in and no kids. And that's the only way I could see to thread the needle. Whether all that would be worth it for an entity to jump through all those hoops to go ahead and have their event, then that's
right. And my understanding was that the facilities committee would receive those proposals and be the first layer of defense, saying, okay, they have security on all this, and decide whether it might possibly work, and then bring it to the board for the, and I just didn't see it getting through that level.
I understand. My interpretation of what we were going to do is that the facilities committee would build the framework such as you would have to have security in order to make this happen, and have that in our procedure before someone, so we don't have to waste the committee's time. Each time someone wants to make a request, put it out there, all the requirements up front. This is what you're going to have to do to make this, to pull off this event. That was my thought. So
if we put so your thinking was, we put together the framework and then we bring it back to the board saying, this is what we think the framework ought to be. And the board approves the framework. And then if a organization like the Athletic Boosters at the high school, right, wants to have the crab feed, that's the event that I'm thinking of, in the multipurpose room, instead of paying, instead of essentially that money leaving the district, then they would come in, to the facilities committee, say, we'd like to do it, we've met all your A's, B's, and C's. The facilities committee would then look at it and verify that it met A, B, and C, and then bring it to the board saying, well, it met A, B, and C, and this is what we said.
Work through all the details, yes. That was my
Can I
thought.
ask a question, not being on the facilities committee and having done the paperwork? When a request goes to the facilities committee, has it gone to the school first to find out availability? Or does the facilities committee approve first and then they find the availability?
Typically, it's availability, site approval, then the committee.
And we don't actually approve.
If there's never a date until the year 2050 that there's no students on campus, it wouldn't even get to the facilities committee, right? Because they have to check the dates first.
Well, they would check, in my vision of it, and it may not be the reality, in my vision of it, the athletic boosters, for instance, since that's the example we've been using, would go to the school and say, we want to have a crab feed on this date. Can we have availability? And the school would say, yes, there is a practice that we can bump. There's something else that we can move. Yes, you can have the entire campus for that date.
In 6 years. Yeah.
Whenever it was. That would be up to the site to figure that part out.
So it goes to the site, not to the district, right?
Well, it's,
Where does the question
First.
go?
Goes to the district through the civic permits.
Mhm.
Right. So that's where the request starts.
yes.
Okay.
And, so I understand. I think that the desire and the thrust of what the facilities committee was supposed to do is more clear.
Well, just from this discussion, it sounds like it wasn't clear before. So, and I want to, before we send it to the committee, I want to make sure that we have consensus and that we're all on the same page, that that is what we want to do. Because what you discussed, or what you explained, that's an option also, if that's what the board so chooses to do. So we just have to come up with something.
I'm fine with taking it back to the facilities committee and coming up with some sort of,
Four corners of a policy.
right, and then bring it back to the board for,
A procedure, more or less, yeah.
It's a checklist that we would see.
And then, okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so we're clear. The committee will be tasked with coming up with a procedure following the policy that's been established and which is in line with the law, the Business and Professions Code, to come back to the board for discussion and approval. Any comments from our student trustee? No? Okay.
one thing I would like to ask is if Associate Superintendent Harrison has any input on what he's heard up here, because he's going to be doing the lion's share of the legwork on everything we just discussed. And if you need clarity on anything you heard, then now would be a good time to
Yeah, let's flush this out.
ask for it.
I believe that your directions are pretty clear, and I will facilitate whatever this board decides. So,
And it's also, I believe, an opportunity to get input from the community. I think that's, you'll have the time and that's the proper venue to get it, where we can actually have community members come and, especially from the organizations that want to do these kinds of events, and maybe bring something that we haven't thought of.
Mm-hmm.
can I point out one thing, that it probably will have to go to 2 meetings at minimum, because we always like to do a first read, get feedback, go back and and then I go back and make the adjustments as directed by the committee, and then come back with it again. So like the theater, we've hashed through it 3 times, in that committee. So we want to make sure that we get it right. So it may take a couple meetings.
Yeah, we've hashed through a lot of stuff that's taken longer than that, so this is important. We have to get this right.
We do.
There are, there's serious implications involved here, and I understand the desire of the community. I've heard it, I know, but we have a legal obligation here to make sure that the district is free of lawsuits for, or
Well, we have
potential issue, yeah.
we have a fiduciary responsibility to protect the interests of the districts at all
Well said.
times. So.
Thank you, yes.
And I'd just like to end the conversation by noting, contrary to some public comment, I actually agreed to this.
And also, I would like to, on the comment that you made, we do have a facility coming soon, which I believe was the intent of the law in the first place. It's a district facility where students are not going to be there or have the potential of being there. I believe that was the intent of the policy. When we have a facility like that, I think it'll be a different story.
And whatever the procedure is that we come up with in the committee and bring to this board, I think it should reflect that we have one set of rules if something were to happen on a campus, and, those rules aren't necessarily the same rules if it's happening at the PD. We may not require as many security guards, for instance, at the PD to make sure there are no students there as we would at a campus, because kids aren't.
I think we'll have to wait. I agree, but we need to wait and see the building and see what the accent
True.
is.
Because I'm in my mind, I'm automatically going to, well, what does a perimeter look like?
Yeah.
And how close
True.
is it to it's on the side of the campus, so I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I believe it's,
Southwest corner.
it's entirely fenced off and different entrance and exits and all that stuff, but.
Things that we need to work through.
Yeah, but I think the facilities committee will have enough to do to fight the fire in front of us, which is without the PDC.
True.
We can attack that on later.
So, Associate Superintendent Harrison, if you could make sure that discussion gets on the February Facilities Committee
yes, sir.
agenda, that would be great. And
And that is 7th, February 7th? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other comments? Very good, thank you. Calendar. Monday, January 21st is Martin Luther King Day. There's no school for students. Wednesday, February 6th is our next governing board meeting at 7 p.m. Thursday, February 7th is the next facilities committee meeting at 6:30 p.m. And Wednesday, February 13th is the wellness committee meeting at 3:30. In a moment, we'll be adjourning to closed session where we're going to discuss item A, student discipline and other confidential matters. Item B, public employee discipline dismissal release complaint. Item C, public employee appointment, employment, evaluation superintendent. Item D, conference with real property negotiators for property at 397 East Ramsey Drive, Mountain House, California. And agency negotiators, the superintendent, negotiating parties are Mountain House developers, Camilos, Trimark, Shea Homes, negotiating price, terms, and payment of both. Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn to closed session.
Second?
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you. All right, we've returned from closed session at 9:45, reporting out. Item A, student discipline and other confidential matters, Education Code Sections 35146, 48900, and 48912B. The board took action on a motion by trustee Goodrich and seconded by trustee Lampel to approve staff recommendation for student readmission after expulsion of student number 1, 2018-19 school year by the following vote, 5 ayes. Can I have a motion?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.